Welcome back to the Saint Squad. I'm your host, Dylan Sanders of Saints Wire, and I have seen the light on Chase Young. Wait, maybe that's just my podcast light.
I'm Ross Jackson, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, and I think Alvin Kamara is in for a big year in 2025.
John Hendricks, New Orleans football. Everybody clap your hand.
This is former Saints wide receiver Lance Moore, and I don't think it's a great idea that my neighbor is having a taco truck for a 4th of July party.
It's the Saints Squad, sponsored by Gametime. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad show, starting now.
Howdy, United Nation. Welcome back to the Saints Squad, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every Monday and Thursday. We have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today, we're going to be diving into stuff like a Spencer Rattler season preview. What does his season look like if he wins the job or not? Who's going to lead the team in interceptions? And then we're going to have something fun today. We're doing it a little bit differently. We each came prepared with a take, and we're going to state our case and defend it with each other. And so I want to start off with Lance, because Lance came in strong, and it's one I like, and I think it's fun. So people like offense, and that's where Lance is going to start us out with.
Well, people like offense because people are smart, right?
Just not taco truck people, right?
Hey.
That's what you're saying?
I'm a big taco truck fan, but I feel like there's it's a little something, I guess, un-American about having a taco truck on the 4th of July.
I thought it was like don't light a flame type situation or something like that.
Look, man, to each their own, and I will still pull up and I will still enjoy those tacos, even though it's the 4th of July. I might just have some stuff tucked away in my refrigerator to throw on the grill a little bit later tomorrow evening. So, so I can feel like I really did 4th of July the right way, along with s'mores and all that stuff.
I think my mom mentioned sorry.
Go ahead.
I think my mom mentioned something like tortellini or something like that because it was requested, and we were like, "No,
nothing says 4th of July like tortellini."
No, we got to do a hot dog and a hamburger. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest.
At least like the taco truck is outside, so like that's kind of a little more tortellini. Okay, all right. Hey. Like I said, to each their own. And I hope that you all enjoy that tortellini. Hopefully it's cheese tortellini. But look, my take, former wide receiver, I feel like it's kind of easy for me to lean in that direction, but I think that this isn't a hot take. I think it's a very serious and realistic take. And I believe that both Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed will have over 1,000 yards receiving this year. And why do I think that? Well, there's a number of different reasons why I think that. And I think the first and most important reason why I think we're going to have that this season is I think both of those guys are going to be as healthy as they've been in their National Football League careers this year, right? Like we've talked about new strength coach Ted Rath a lot on this show, my former teammate at the University of Toledo. Smart guy, knows what he's doing, understands how to get the most out of guys without running them into the ground. And I really do think that the philosophy that he has is going to marry well with the current state of the NFL and trying to keep guys healthy. Like you have to continue to try to use your strength training and do those things throughout the season that will help you stay healthy. I believe that more times than not, recently, there's been a lot of situations where guys are just trying to get by, right? That means going into the weight room and doing the bare minimum hey, what is the workout for the day? Okay, I may or may not want to do that. I'm going to do whatever it takes to just kind of get the check mark for my workout, as opposed to actually going in and continuing to put in work. I think it's necessary that guys do that. And I think guys like both of those two who have had injury histories need to be very, very serious about taking care of their bodies, especially with the contract situations that they both face here coming up. I think their health is going to be paramount. Well, honestly, the health of all of our players is paramount. Sure. But I think specifically for those guys who have had injury issues, I guess, Shaheed more so with the soft tissue and or knee, I guess, joint issues. And then Chris Olave, who more recently has been more scary with the head injuries, right? The concussions. Yeah. And I think, not only, staying in the weight room is going to help him because he's a more thin built receiver, but I think going into his fourth year and understanding now that he can take care of himself while being out on the field is going to be super duper important. Yeah. I think by now he will have understood that they're not paying him to run guys over. And I think he can protect himself a little bit better while having a better understanding of where guys are in space. And then the coverages, right? The way that the defense is playing. I know if I'm running this specific route that this defender could be near me in this moment, and I need to do a better job of catching and getting down, getting what I can get and protecting myself and getting down. It's okay to know when the journey is over and excuse yourself from the activity.
Yeah, and then good thing for him to have a guy like Brandon Cooks around to help him learn that kind of stuff too, right?
100%, 100%. Yes, and obviously Brandon Cooks is not a gigantic receiver, right? And he's a guy that has had some concussion issues himself, and I think as he's gotten older, understands now way better than he did when he was younger that at some point the journey's going to be over and you can go ahead and get down and nobody's going to fault you for it because it's something that's been happening for a long time, myself included. So
right. I don't think anyone this year would complain about watching Chris Olave or Rashid Shaheed be a little bit more conservative in terms of taking hits or stuff like that if it means a couple of extra yards on a play.
Well, they used to. They did. Remember that Colts game? Remember the Colts game with Olave? People were dogging Olave because he was getting down. Like, which one do you want? Him to be available or you want him
that's exactly what I was going to say. Like, okay, I'm going to forego 2 yards here on this play that I already have 36 on to maybe play next week, right? Like, I think I would rather their availability more so than them, Now, that doesn't mean that I don't want them catching the ball and trying to get as many yards as humanly possible. You can do that and still get down, right? Like, but you understand now better, okay, I've got this ball that I'm catching, getting ready to go near some traffic. I don't need to try to, run over 3 guys at one time, right? And
no need for all that.
I know that the quarterbacks are young. But I feel like, Chris Olave the last couple of years for sure has been thrown into some scary situations. I think that schematically, Kellen Moore is going to do a good job of making sure to put these young quarterbacks in the right play and then allowing them easy enough reads to not put these guys in precarious situations where they could be running into trouble and blow up shots or kill shots, like people say. I think that's going to be a big part of it. I also think our offensive line being better, our running game hopefully being back is also going to help these guys be able to catch the ball with more space. And like I said before, like 1,000 yards is literally averaging less than 60, like around 60 yards per game. I think that's a highly realistic expectation for both of these guys. And, I think the touches are going to be there, specifically without Taysom Hill to feed. Those are extra touches to go around. And I honestly, I thought about saying that those two and Jawan Johnson will have 1,000 yards this season. But I thought I feel like that was doing a lot. I do think that Jawan will have a really good year, 700 yards plus even. But I believe the last time the Saints had 3,000-yard receivers was
16.
Me, Colston, and Jimmy Graham, maybe it was after us. But I just think that these guys have what it takes. And I would not be surprised to see both of those guys have over 1,000 yards, even with all the change, all the young quarterbacks and everything like that. I really think that's a realistic expectation and look forward to seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Starting us out strong. I'll take us to this next one, and I'm going to go with the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to say Chase Young. You got my mind on that.
Olave's playing defense.
Same thing.
Chase Young is going to finish top 10 in the NFL in sacks. So that really means I'm going to 11 or 12 sacks at least, I think, around there. And I've kind of seen the light. I think that I went back and I watched some of Chase Young last year. He had 5.5 sacks last year. At least 2.5 of them came while he was standing up. He got Jaden Daniels when he was, he got Dak Prescott, he got Kirk Cousins. All of those came while he was standing up, and a couple of other plays. So I think that with him, he is as healthy as he's been in a while, which means he's going to be as athletic. I mean, he's still 26. I think that he fits this scheme well, and I think that he will be set up better to hopefully finish those sacks with some more disguises. There's a little bit more time and a little bit more confusion, and he is clearly someone that is still explosive and agile enough to come off the edge while standing up and get those sacks. So I think that he is just he's been waiting, and everyone's been waiting on the year that he breaks out into the player that we thought he could be. And I think that this is the best case scenario for him to do that. He will have the opportunity. He will have the scheme. It's all on him. And it seems like he's been working and is ready to take advantage of that opportunity this season.
Yeah, he's been really, it seems that he's really excited about Brandon Staley's defense. And I think one of the things that also stands in his favor is that he played 17 games last season. And that was a big question mark for him, or has been a big question mark for him, is the one around health. Of course, there's all those question marks around effort, which I did not see an issue with at all last year from him. And so I think that he's got kind of a few of those boxes checked to make sure that he's able to get up there and do that. And look, this is what he's going to be paid to do, right? Like, this is the idea. They gave him this 3-year, $51 million total contract worth up to 57. The idea is for him to go out there and be the edge rusher, the dominating player that offenses have to game plan around or pay attention to, and all these other pieces. That's the idea for him. And so I think that him being put back in that scenario, as opposed to last year where it was kind of, hey, incentive heavy, come in here, come prove it kind of a thing. This is a different level of confidence in him. And I think that could potentially help him take that step forward as well. But I think the biggest advantage that he's going to have is his ability to play to his strength in Brandon Staley's game.
I like that.
He's going to need to have some multi-sack games, because if he played all 17, gets a half sack every game, that's 8.5. So, I mean, if he got a half sack a game, which is probably not realistic unless you're, Reggie White or somebody like that. But I mean, or Lawrence Taylor, that's another one too. But I think that he has the potential to get to double-digit sacks. I think he has the potential to be a really game changer and wrecking ball, if you will. I love the concept of Chase Young. Again, we talked about it on previous episodes that if this team did not sign Chase Young and then they went in the draft the way they did, their pass rush is just not as good, right? I mean, no disrespect. I think Carl Granderson is in for a rebound year. I still think Cam has a lot left in the tank. There's going to be some other players on that and from the edge position that might surprise a little bit of people, but they need Chase Young to become that disruptor. And again, also another past episode. Don't forget to hit and like, subscribe, guys. Shameless plug on Saints Squad. But anyways, he needs to be somebody that takes over a game when they need a key stop. He needs to be that guy that gets the defense off the field and gives the offense a shot. I think they've missed that for years. That I remember prime Cam Jordan when they needed to stop. I remember the Atlanta game, the thing when he had 4+ sacks. They needed to stop. Cam was the guy. They need that guy out of Chase Young, and I still think Cam can contribute. Carl Granderson can do that, but Chase Young is paid to be that guy, and so I think that he can get there 10 sacks, top 10. Man, I'd love to see it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit more swinging for the fences, but
Sure.
you know, I'm there.
Well, Dylan, that's not swinging for the fences. That's swinging for the moon. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here. Chase Young has 22 career sacks in 7 seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's not act like because he was, a top 5 pick 8 years ago that now in year 8 that he's all of a sudden going to turn into
year 6. It's year 6. It's year 6.
Is
this not year 6 for him?
I have his stats pulled up right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're right. My bad. Year 6.
Well, anyway,
22 career
Lance over here.
Career sacks in 6 years. Okay. My bad.
No, you're good. It's just we're laughing at Dylan's response to that moment, not you.
Okay. I understand. Like we need Chase Young to be that guy, but I just don't know that he's that guy, right? Like I think he can have a good year. I think he can have a better year this year than he had last year. I hope that he can have a double-digit sack season and be top 10 in the NFL in sacks. I just don't know that I see that out of him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I say that is because we've never seen it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like
fair.
That's I want to like believe it. I do. I really do. And I'm not a Chase Young hater. I'm a Columbus, Ohio kid. I'm an Ohio State fan. Like I need to see it.
Yeah. I think the bigger thing is if he's going to do it, that this is a pretty good environment within which he could potentially get it done. Like this is one of the better scenarios for him as opposed to last year to actually be that guy if he can stay healthy.
Didn't he play for the 49ers a couple years ago?
Well, but he only played half the season with them, and
he played
only
half of the snaps in those games. Like,
you guys got a lot of excuses.
The focus guy.
If there was
excuses and reasons. There's difference between excuses and reasons.
For him to be a dominant type player,
oh man,
I would imagine it would be playing on the opposite side of Nick Bosa and those other guys on that defensive front. Hey, you could be a guy that no defenses are game planning for because they have to account for this guy on the other side of you. Just put your hand in the dirt and take off like your rear is on fire and go get the quarterback. Like,
I guess it would have been great to see him get 10 sacks in 9 games with the 49ers. I guess you're right. But I mean, like that's
I mean, it doesn't even have to be 10
that's
sacks.
Not what
I'm saying to become that dominant force, right? That guy that's getting a sack every game, every other game, at least a half a sack a game. Like that, if you needed to see it from him, that would have been a perfect spot. Now, he could be a guy that gets better as he ages. It happens. It's rare, but it happens. Yeah. I'm hoping for that. I'm just trying to be a little more realistic, and I'm not really trying to poo on your take, Dylan.
Yeah, no.
I'm just, I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here for conversation.
I know. Oh man. Well, coming up next, we're gonna have John telling y'all maybe a little bit of a positive spin on a Saints win total. Ooh.
Ooh.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. One of my favorite bets right now is a race to 3 strikeouts in an MLB game. That's some sicko stuff, but it's so fun to watch a game when you have the race to 3 strikeouts. Every at bet is so fun, and it makes the game of baseball a little bit less boring. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's $5 for a $150 bonus bet. It's hard to beat that. Jumping back into it, John, bring us in with maybe a win total for the Saints. Huh?
Yeah, I like how you let the craziest take go right here, not go last. But anyways, I believe when it's all said and done, the Saints have at least 8 wins this season or better.
Ooh.
Okay.
Ooh.
Now follow me here because
Yep.
I'm going to just try to sway you, try to tell you. Okay. Here's the games they're going to lose. They're going to lose against Buffalo. They're going to lose against Miami. Tampa's probably going to beat them twice. They're going to split with Atlanta, Carolina. Okay. I believe that they can beat Tennessee. That's a winnable game. I believe they're going to, again, Carolina, Atlanta, they're going to split. That's 3 wins. New England is another team that I believe that they're going to beat.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants, the Bears. So you're up to 6.
Sorry.
So you're up to 6. Now, the other 4 that I say question marks is that NFC West, Arizona, Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. I believe that they could find a couple wins there, especially being that they played Arizona and San Francisco early in the season, right to begin the season, especially at home. So I don't think those teams are unbeatable, but I do believe that at some point, Kellen Moore is going to figure out this team. The Saints are going to hit some type of stride. I don't think they're going to finish 4-13, 5-12. I don't buy the low, right? I believe they can get somewhere around that 8-win total. I believe that's where they're going to finish. I think they're going to figure out the quarterback situation, which is the most important thing, right? I think the defense is going to be a lot better. I don't expect them to play gangbusters right out of the gate. I do believe they're going to find their rhythm. I think that's the biggest thing is when you come starting an NFL season, a lot of the early weeks, I mean, it just depends, right? Like you've seen teams that start hot that fizzle out. Saints start 2-0, they end up what their record was, right? I remember years ago, Vikings started like 5-0, 5-1, and they missed the playoffs. I mean, this happens all the time, but I think the Saints are a team, and when they get well coached from Kellen Moore, they're going to find their groove when it matters, and they might put together, not saying a winning streak, but I think they'll put together a string of games where they're going to be able to find some success, build off that success, and win some games where teams play, other people think they're just not going to win. But if you look at their schedule, I mean, Tennessee's Cam Ward. We've talked about Tennessee on this show in saying that the Saints are better than that. I think Carolina, they can still obviously, like I said, split. They may be able to sweep Carolina, right? Carolina's a mystery team. Atlanta, I mean, they can beat them at home. I don't know if they can beat them in Atlanta's building. It's been a challenge the past couple of years. The Giants, they beat them last year. The Bears, that's a Dennis Allen game. I think that they can get a little bit of extra pep in their step to win that game. And then, I just see at least a little bit more positivity here. Now we got to go through training camp. We got to see all this other stuff, but I think they can get to 8 wins. And I don't think that's too crazy of a take.
Man, it is.
And I'll take my medicine now.
It's bad. It's bad whenever I hear you say the Saints are going to win 8 games, and I go, that's a lot.
I mean, it is. It is.
That is where we are. Isn't it?
I know.
Yeah. John, I have a follow-up. Is that a good thing?
Yes, I would say it is a good thing because you're talking about a rebuild. And again, I think we've talked about on this program, whether it's Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler, I believe if they go 8 wins, this rebuild accelerates even faster. And I think that actually causes them to push their chips even more in, which could be dangerous. Like to your devil's advocate, that could be very dangerous if they get to 8 or 9 wins this season. And then they think that's the space they operate. I kind of like to see a little bit more sustainable success. Like I don't want to see the team that it will go out and blow up New England, 27-10, and then they lay an egg the next week and get blown out the opposite way, 30-10 or something, 30-13. I want to see them be more competitive, but if they can be in that space where they are a lot more competitive and are in these games where they're truly maybe a 1 or 2 score game, not where they're just having to rally behind and the score looks like it's better than what it actually was, like it doesn't tell the actual game. That's what I want to see. But I do believe that if they can get to 8 or 9 wins the right way, then it does accelerate this rebuild program, and it does mean good things for this program.
I think it's a great thing if they win 8 games because, I mean, if you're winning 8 games with Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler, you don't need a Garrett Nussmeier. They wouldn't take a Garrett Nussmeier. You don't need that first overall pick if you're winning 8 games with a rookie. I think the confidence and building off of that is more important than a couple of draft spots into where you're drafting, let's say, number 7 or like number 12 or something like that. I think the winning the games with the rookies is a bigger deal than drafting, especially with the way this team drafts. It's like it feels like their guy isn't going to be the guy that everyone's like, oh, well, you have to get the number 7 pick in this draft to get him. You know?
Yeah. And look, like... if I'm sorry, Ross. I was going to say, and if they hit on Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler, like the thing is, we're putting our eggs in the basket of that they're going to hit on the quarterback, right? And that's just one part of this, right? They got to have the offensive line work, receivers. I'm not that worried about it. You know, tight end has some question marks. I think this falls on what kind of quarterback they get and then what kind of defense they get. And I don't think it's as simple. And, you say, oh, well, you're going to get Tyler Shuck. Get a game manager. Get somebody. Get the run going. The offensive line. That's why they're so important. Defense just needs to not be garbage. I was going to say some other things, but just don't need to be garbage like they have been. I mean, this used to be, there's a paradigm shift in the Saints where, when Drew was here, I think it was, 2010, 2011, where the Saints offense was, as long as Drew was there, you had a chance. I mean, always when Drew was here, but there was a shift when 2017, the defense started being their guy, their bread and butter, which took over games where the defense would get them games and allowed Drew to cook and not have to win the game single-handedly. So I'd like to see the defense get back to that area and that play space.
Yeah. I also think that the idea of like playing for positioning in like the draft class for next year, you're not guaranteed to hit on that quarterback either, right? Like if you end up in a situation to where you have the number 2, number 3 overall pick, and then you're in position to draft that quarterback, there's no guarantee that quarterback pans out. And so you're trying to find as much success in 2025 as possible. 8 games, I usually have them around 7, so I don't think that 8 is crazy. I think that 8 would be a solid mark for them. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, good. Ross, bring us home with your take.
Yeah. Pro taco, first of all. Second, I will say that for me, the kind of state my case on this one is that Alvin Kamara is going to have his first career 1,000-yard rushing season. Now, I have to say it's going to be hard for him to have his first 1,000-yard rushing season if you also have 2 wide receivers over 1,000 yards. So I want to acknowledge that like Lance and I are making separate predictions in terms of what those are. And so for me, though, this is Alvin Kamara's opportunity. And look, maybe you can get 1,000-yard rusher with 2,000-yard passes. I'll have to go back to 2016 and see what that looked like, but I don't remember that happening for them then. But the thing that I think fits for Alvin Kamara the most in this situation is much like the other conversations that we've had is the scheme, but then also the young quarterbacks. You're going to want to get the ball in Alvin Kamara's hand with the young quarterbacks. You're going to want to be able to run the football as well. And I think the biggest factor that goes into this being a thing is going to be yards before contact. So it's going to be about the offensive line just as much as it's going to be about the individual running back of Alvin Kamara and what he does after contact. But if that offensive line is picking him up 3-4 yards before contact, 2-3 yards before contact on average, then that's going to give him an opportunity to be able to really actually get going, see what's developing in front of him, utilize that vision, and then be able to be the guy that he is still, I believe, with the ball in his hands. He's going to have to stay healthy. He's another one of those healthy ones or health conversations or question marks that you're going to have to make sure is good. But if he's able to get the blocking ahead of him, the scheme that's going to support him, as well as, of course, the benefit of the young quarterback and wanting to get the run game going, I think Alvin Kamara can finally step into his first 1,000-yard rushing season, which is insane that he's never had one at this point.
Well, do the math. Like Lance said, let's just even say he misses a couple games and only plays 15.
Yep.
Still means he only needs 67 yards a game on the ground to get to 1,000. I mean, I don't think it was as far-fetched as it sounds.
I mean, but you say that. I mean, you say like, well, they could have it, but I mean, it's never happened before.
Sure. No, I get that.
Yeah. And he was so close last year, but it was the health at the end of the season. Well, he was within 50 yards last year, and then it was that he missed those last couple of games, and he never got the opportunity to get there. And that was not, remember, that injury was not him getting hit or anything like that. He stretched out to make a catch that was thrown by Cedric Wilson Jr., pulled a groin, and then bang, that was it. You know what I mean? And so it's a lot more nuanced in all of these players' cases then I think some will look at it from the outside, right? And so it's a tough situation to navigate, but I think he can do it as long as he can stay on the field.
I'm gonna miss that Kubiak offense.
Are you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
I think after you see Kellen
you
Morris,
get to see it in Seattle.
You reminding me of that
Yeah.
made me so mad. Actually, I remembered what happened. I was like, no.
Remember when the first real showing of like absolute desperation came on the second time they tried to have Cedric Wilson Jr. throw that pass, and it was like, oh no, they're out of tricks.
Yeah, I think it was way before that. But yeah, no, that was when it hit.
But that was
officially
the absolute,
hit the bottom.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
That hit rock bottom.
That was like, oof.
Yeah,
yikes.
That was like, okay, we're done here. Seen enough. As Sean Bateman said.
Well, we've talked a lot about defense, offense in the first half. Let's switch over to the defense whenever we come back and talk some interception. People love offense. People love interceptions as well. Jumping back in, we're going to go with a statistical projection. We've done a couple of these. Let's stick with interceptions this time because that is something that I think this Saints team really needs more of. It's taking the ball away from the opponents. And it's something that Brandon Staley defenses haven't always done at a high rate, but I think that there are opportunities for them to do it. So start with Lance. Who do you think, or who would be your pick to lead the team in interceptions this year?
Well, I wanted to pick Danny Stutzman because, of course, I don't think he's going to start out the season as a starter, so he's going to lose some opportunities there. Alontae Taylor, man, I think he's going to have 5 to 6 picks. I think that'll lead the team. But I just think that the ability that he has, the playmaking ability, the on-ball playmaking ability that he has, his toughness, his athleticism, kind of being around in the mix a lot, and him, I think, bouncing from outside to inside. I mean, it's not like there's going to be a lack of reps there for him. I just think that being able to have the variety of being on the outside in base, and then bouncing to the inside to the slot in the 11 personnel or the nickel defenses will allow him or afford him the ability to get the necessary amount of targets at him to be able to make those plays. And we've seen him, have interceptions before in the past. I think this is going to be his best year, and no reason why he can't have a 5 or 6 or even more interception season.
Yeah. John, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the old guy, quote unquote. I'm going to go with Tyron. I think Tyron will be the interception leader when it's all said and done. I mean, it's kind of where he's been, right? I mean, the most he's had in his career is 6 in a season. That was when he was with Kansas City. And so, look, I think when you look at this Saints defense, Justin Reed would be obviously another thought, but he's only had 10 in his career. He's only had, I think, 3 is his career high in one season. But I just think Tyron's got that stuff left in the tank. I think he's got what he needs to be on the field a little bit more. I think, like we talked about Tad Rath, he's going to be another one, right? Because he was around and he still played a lot of snaps for this defense. He just wasn't able to finish a lot of games. And look, I just think he's got a lot more to prove. New haircut, fresh haircut for Tyrann Mathieu this season. I think he's got something left. Yeah, and Dylan too. Yeah, somebody's talking about Robin Hood haircut. What was that about? Yeah. Anyway,
I think this little swoop.
Yeah, you just need a little feather in the back or something. But no, I just think it's got to be Tyrann. I think that they'll also, like we talk about Brandon Staley using Alontae Taylor the right way. I think using Tyrann Mathieu the right way is also another thing too. So I just feel like he's going to be the guy. He's somebody that can have a knack around the ball. And again, is it going to look like 10 interceptions? I wish. I think it's more like 5. 5 would probably be the most I think anybody's going to come away with. But I think Tyron can be that ball hawk and go out with a bang, so to speak. Not that I think that he's absolutely done after this season, but the Saints need him to be that player that they saw, early on. And last year didn't go that well for him. We know Ross and I talked to people. There's a lot of struggles with Tyron last year and such. And so he just needs to be the player that they believe that he could be. And he knows it. Like, he's going to be self-aware and know he's the first player that needs to improve and such. But I think when it's all said and done, Tyron leads this team in interceptions again.
Yeah. Ross, I know I think you have a similar answer, or maybe you'll switch it up.
Yeah, I think I would say very similar because my answer is Tyrann Mathieu. I think that for me, I think that one of the things that I look at is that he's, out of active players, in a certain amount of time, he leads the NFL in interceptions. And so I think that we've seen it in his game for so long that has been a part of what it is that he does. And I think that the other thing is that he probably plays, I don't know if he's going to play fewer snaps, but they certainly have a contract ready for him to do so, which is something that might allow him to be, but that doesn't mean that he won't be deployed in a way that he can still be impactful. I think that the addition of Justin Reid helps him because of the versatility of Justin Reid. You can put Tyrann Mathieu in any position that will benefit that matchup the most, as opposed to, kind of shoehorning him into a specific role. It'll allow you to be able to move him around, play the mismatch game, or play the matchup game rather, and all those other pieces. And then finally, I'm going with what we've seen over the last 3 years. Tyrann Mathieu's been at the top of the team in interceptions. 2 of those years he was tied with Paulson Adebo, but he has been number 1 or tied for number 1 on this team in interceptions in the past 3 years. And I don't think that the Saints did anything but lose talent in the secondary to change that. And so for me, I feel there's a lot of promise in Kool-Aid McKinstry. I really like Quincy Riley. I'm higher on Isaac Yiadom than most. I'm higher on Alante Taylor than a lot. I think Lance is in there too. And so I think that all of those things are great, but you lost your 2 top guys, your week 1 starters from a year ago. And so you're looking for where you're going to get that leadership, that veteran production, all those other things. I think all of that lends itself to Tyrann Mathieu again being the guy that leads the team in interceptions by the time that it's all said and done, unless one of those young guys really stands up, which would probably actually be best case scenario for New Orleans.
Well, Ross, I think I might have to look at a best case scenario because my guy that I think, I think the safe answer is Tyrann. But if there's a guy and a cornerback that I think has the profile to break out and be a guy that can be a little bit of a ball hawk, can earn some favor in the fan base, I'm going to go with Quincy Riley. I think that because that's a guy that I think 3 or 4 interceptions leads the team this year. I think that is, I think 2023, Brandon Staley's last year, I think 2 led the team that year. So you only need a couple. And I think Quincy Riley he was a ball hawk at Louisville. And I think that it's something that Kool-Aid, it was either between him or Kool-Aid. I think I would love to see one of those guys on the boundary break out. And I have more faith in Quincy Riley breaking out as a young guy than Isaac Yiadom turning into a turnover machine this year. Not that I dislike Isaac Yiadom. That's never been his game, even whenever he was playing really well for the Saints. And I just think that it's something that Riley did well in college and could maybe do well if he's getting healthier, he's getting a little bit better. He's going to be more involved in training camp than he was in mini camp. If he can win the job on the field, I think he has the best chance of a boundary cornerback to lead the team in interceptions.
I think that's great. 15 interceptions of the course of his career, the most in his draft class, 23 forced incompletions since 2023. That was the most in the FBS over the course of those 2 years. He is a ball hawk. And so if he gets the opportunities, I think that's a solid pick.
And I think that these cornerbacks are going to get tested more than anything. I think teams are going to be way more willing to test Kool-Aid McKinstry, Isaac Yiadom, and Quincy Riley than Tyrann Mathieu and Justin Reid or even Danny Stutzman.
That's right.
Well, that's what I was going to say. We did a preview on McKinstry. I don't know how many episodes ago, but we talked about it. Like when he was playing, he didn't get targeted a lot, right? I mean, that's the thing is, I don't know if that continues, but even with Kool-Aid, like it is a sneaky pick if he were to get there, because that's just simple fact. I just don't know that he's going to get targeted as much. I'm really interested to see where opposing quarterbacks go, right? And they got Tua, Josh Allen this year. They've got Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray. I mean, they got some quarterbacks that probably will test this secondary a good bit. I mean, it's just the call for what it is. And they got some interesting wide receivers to guard on the opposite side. So it'll be really fun to see how this Saints secondary, who, Ross, you said 2 starters. I think 3 is probably because Will Harris, Lattimore, Adebo. I mean, that's 3 guys that they're replacing in the starting secondary last year. So it's definitely like a brand new me, new look, new year, new me type thing here.
Lance, this is just a random question, but did you know if the guy I assume you did. Did you know if the guy you were lining up against was leaned more in terms of like going for the ball or contested, or would that change how you approach
100%? Like you when you study guys throughout the week, you always are going to see like their playing style, right? Like is this a guy that is really good in press coverage? Is this a guy that likes to play zone coverage? Is this a guy that's a gambler, right? There's certain guys that are like there's a saying, picks get you paid, right? Like, so even if this guy's getting roasted, toasted a lot of the time, but somehow ends up with 10 picks, those picks are still going to get him paid. Like that's just the nature of the business. Like he could give up the most yards in the NFL, but if he leads the league in picks, somebody's going to pay him. So yes, you absolutely go into a game knowing which guys, and it's really, I would say it's more so the quarterback that understands those tendencies than anybody else. But obviously as a receiver, okay, this guy's got 6 picks. He's highly competitive. He's good. He's got great ball skills. He knows how to finish plays when he gets his hands on the ball. But these guys are not going to lack any opportunities on the outside. I don't think that they have the reputation yet of a group that's doing those things. So it doesn't matter if it's Josh Allen or if it's the Bryce Young. Like I don't think they're going to go into any of these games like, oh man, we can't throw to the outside. Marshawn is over there on the left. We're not going to throw it. I think all of these guys are going to have to establish themselves as one of those players. And as you guys were talking about Tyron, I was kind of thinking like, man, these guys are right. Like I want it to be Alante, but I do feel like Tyron's got the unique ability to be able to make plays kind of all over the field. And he's not one of those guys that has made a career on sitting back deep in the middle of the field and catching overthrows as interceptions, right?
Good point.
Like he's a playmaking safety, right? He's a guy that can understand route concepts and spacing and where guys are getting ready to be, and being able to go to that spot and make plays like that. That's not all safeties and really not all DBs have that ability. So it would make total sense for me if he leads the team in interceptions. And I'm not totally changing my stance here. But I do see, especially in the role that I believe that he's going to play in this defense, that allows him to be his best self, and that's kind of moving around and not playing in one position. I think they're going to put him in position to make plays and use that unique ability that he has, specifically in the middle of the field, to make those plays. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being Tyron.
Man, how cool is it? Oh, you go.
I was just going to ask. That was a really good question, Dylan. I was just saying, real quick, how many hours a week did you guys spend watching film on opposing defensive backs?
A lot. I mean,
fair. Okay.
How much film you watch? A lot.
So sure, we watch the film, when we're in the building. We're like every single day we're watching tape from, previous games, previous seasons. We're watching player cut-ups. But we're also watching the tape when we get back to the house. Like back in the day, it was like the DVD that they gave you and you took it home. Nowadays, I would believe it's the iPad, or it could even just be a login where they can log in on their own computer and pull up film on all these guys. But you're spending hours on top of hours on top of hours, and it's not just, oh, we're gonna watch this guy play corner. It's like, we're gonna watch this guy. We're gonna watch how he moves around the field. We're gonna watch him situationally, right? Because different defenses play differently in different situations, right? Technique is different. The what they're trying to get accomplished from a positional standpoint is different. So you're trying to learn as much about not just what the defense is doing in totality, but what each individual is doing and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And the only way to do that is to put them on tape or watch them on tape and really, really break down what it is that you're seeing. And that's something that's talked about through the room, right? Like, it's not just the receivers that are watching the DBs, right? The quarterbacks, the running backs, the tight ends, like we're all watching the same thing, so that we have a better understanding of exactly what it is that they're trying to do to stop us.
Yeah, it's just like Josh Norman was somebody that came to mind. 12, 13, 14. Like, not many people knew about Josh Norman coming in, but then he obviously played a little bit better, but, or a lot better and stuff. But that was some of those guys that are curious.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just going to say, how cool is it that it just speaks to the greatness of Tyrann Mathieu. I was 12 whenever he broke out at LSU, and now we're still sitting here talking about him. Be like, I think he's the easy pick to lead a team.
Cool. Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, when I was 12,
I know.
Way to go out on the limb.
That's awesome.
When I was 12,
that's
I
awesome.
knew that.
Very cool.
I knew
Thanks
that.
for telling us that.
I did it on purpose. Oh,
did you really?
But it really does speak to like the greatness of Tyrann Mathieu, that we're still talking about him being like, oh yeah, he'll probably lead the team in interception.
You're right. Yeah,
right. That's just who he is. But someone we don't want to lead the team in interceptions, Spencer Rattler. So we will talk about him coming up next. Wrapping it up, we're going to continue on with our season previews, and we're going to go with Spencer Rattler. Let's talk about like what he needs to do to win the job, or like what happens if he doesn't win the job. Just a little bit of a preview for him this year. Start off with Ross.
So what does he need to do to win the job, and what happens if he doesn't? So I think what he needs to do to win the job is prove consistency and playing competently. Like, those are the things that he's got to do. Can you manage the game? Can you manage the game plan of Kellen Moore? And can you get the ball out on time? This is going to be a timing-based defense. And can you make the pre-snap identifications and calls that are going to be necessary for the way that the offensive line is changing? John and I had a great conversation with Landon Young a year ago about how, there's a set of rules that the team has that all 11 players know, that basically after the snap, once they see what the defense is doing, then they all kind of apply that rule based upon what it is that they're seeing. There's some weak links in that, right? Because if one out of the 11 don't see the same thing or remember the same rule or remember the wrong rule, and you have a weak link in your offense, and the opportunities for that amplify or multiply a bit when you're down to your, Connor McGovern's getting signed on a Tuesday and then playing on a Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, there's tricky stuff with all that. Yeah. So they're shifting away from that to going back to pre-snap identification, the Mike 5-0, Mike 5-2, like those types of different calls at the line of scrimmage that then tells them what it is that they need to do pre-snap, and then they still make some adjustments after the snap, I'm sure, based upon what they're seeing. Like, if a defensive end drops back into coverage, then you have a responsibility as a tackle to do something based on that, yada, yada, yada. So there's still those kind of post-snap adjustments, but they're going back to like the pre-snap identification thing and stuff like that. So I think you have to prove as Spencer Rattler that you can run that and that you can make good decisions. And I think that we've seen that so far throughout OTAs and mandatory minicamp for what that's worth. What happens if he doesn't win the role? I think he becomes a solid backup and then potentially sees the field later on in the season for all we know. I think that ends up being the thing for them. The Saints are in a really good position to where at maybe the worst case scenario is that they've got, or not worst case scenario, but the worst case scenario that involves one of them still winning a job is that they have a really good young backup quarterback. And that's a good situation. So I think that's kind of the way that I would see this. I don't see Spencer Rattler being the type of person to where if he doesn't win the job, then he, starts, pushing for a trade or wanting out or any of those other things, or being that kind of guy. Yeah. Like he's not that dude. He could have been that dude last year, for instance, but then instead he started 6 games. You know what I mean? And so he ended up showing you that he's not that guy. And I think that's an important thing to highlight about him just from an off the field personal standpoint. So I think that's kind of what happens for him. He just becomes the backup quarterback and he stays ready in case his name gets called at a later point in the season.
Yeah. John, what do you think about like his chances to win the job maybe, or like, and like, what do you think happens with him this year?
Yeah, look, I mean, I hate to be that guy and say we've talked about this on past episodes, but I've said I believe that Spencer Rattler will win this job. I do believe that he ends up being the quarterback one to start the year. I do think that way he's come in and approached this offseason, the way he's grown in maturity, just the fact that, yeah, I get Tyler Shuck is probably a lot more ahead in terms of maturity for a quarterback that they've drafted than some of these other quarterbacks, which I think is a great thing because we've talked about, I think it was Ross last episode talking about the development not necessarily being linear and for everybody and all this other different things. And so, but I think for the jump for Rattler last year to this year, knowing that, I mean, for all intents and purposes, he is the guy, right? He's going into it now that's saying, I am QB1 until something happens or unless this other guy takes my job, right? I think that's just kind of the route that they're going. And of course, we're going to probably see a lot of rotation and all this. It may not necessarily be where when we get the depth chart, we'll probably see the or, right? Unless, he just comes out and is taking that job from him. But I just feel like we saw semblances of it last year. It wasn't perfect. There are some times where he did make some decisions which weren't great. He did turn the ball over a little bit. Some of those interceptions weren't his fault. Some of them were his, I would say put on him, if you will. Like I know quarterbacks always get the brunt of it because it's an interception. But again, there are some throws that he's made that you just love to see, right? And I think for Kellen Moore's offense, it's not based off of shot plays. It's not based off of let me get as much yardage on this one play as I can. It's a lot of RPO-based offense. It's going to have a lot more simplified language into it. I just feel like this offense is better catered to somebody like a Spencer Rattler, where he can be more effective in that short to intermediate route in that particular realm. And again, he can sling it. I think Shuck's got a little bit bigger arm for sure. We saw that at OTAs and minicamp, but I think Rattler can be that guy that's a little bit more surgical, a little bit more accurate. And look, I feel like he's got the advantage right now. I would expect him to win this job, but Shuck is going to be like a close, like if Rattler's here, Shuck is right below, maybe a little bit, a step or two behind him. So that's just how close I feel like this job is. But I really feel like Rattler has a lot to prove this season. I know he's worked tirelessly in the off season, and I feel like he's going to show everybody what people saw in him, years ago.
Lance, what do you think about Spencer Rattler heading into this year right now in the quarterback competition, and how do you see this year playing out?
Well, look, I mean, obviously it's an important year for Spencer Rattler. I mean, it's an important year for all these guys, especially with the new staff. I mean, I kind of disagree with John in the fact that if Spencer Rattler is going to win this job, I think it's got to be undeniable. I don't think it could be neck and neck, and Spencer Rattler is just a tiny step ahead of Tyler Shuck. I think Shuck's got the advantage of being this year's draft pick, right? Sure. And not just any draft pick, right? A second-round draft pick when most people didn't have Tyler Shuck going in the second round, right? So some might say a reach or a stretch.
Sure.
I'm going to say this is a guy that they handpicked, that they really wanted to get. And they used a super high draft pick to get him. So I think he's got that on his side, Tyler Shuck, that is. I do think that Spencer Rattler is better equipped to be the starter now, but he's going to have to prove that all throughout training camp and especially in these preseason games. I do think he's the better player today. I do think that he's obviously got some real life, real game reps under his belt already, right? Like he's been there. And he's not, look, there's a big difference between a guy that comes in a few times late in the season in relief and a guy that has actually had to prepare to be the starter in real regular season games. There's a huge difference in that. One thing I'm curious about, though, will there be a situation where Tyler Shough starts one of these preseason games? Is that something that they're prepared to do in this quarterback battle, or is it going to be, you know what, Spencer Rattler is going to take the first reps with the first team, and then Tyler Shough is going to come in at some point. He might even come in with the first team in the in a rotational type situation. But is he preparing? Is he going to prepare for one of these games like he's the starter? Now, I don't know what Kellen Moore's philosophy is with preseason games. I know Sean Payton, Mike Tomlin was the same. Coach Caldwell in Detroit was the same. That first preseason game, there was minimal game planning, right? Like we literally, we almost treated it like another practice. Like there was a very, very short list of plays that we ran, or that we were preparing for that specific opponent. Now, once we moved into later weeks in the preseason, we were actually starting to game plan teams like you would during the regular season. So that could be an interesting kind of storyline that we can look into and then talk about once it gets time, or around that time. But I just think that, Spencer, I do agree that Spencer Rattler is going to be the starter week 1. I just think that he's going to have to separate himself in this quarterback battle. Yeah. I don't think it could be as simple as, hey, let's look at how these guys perform, look at the numbers, look at the big plays that they made, look at the plays that they made with their legs, and they seem to be kind of neck and neck. I don't think that's going to be good for Spencer Rattler, even though he might look a little bit better. I think he's going to have to look like a more of a veteran player than just a rookie coming in trying to get his feet wet.
Yeah. Whoever they go with in week 1 just better have a little bit of a leash. Like I feel like switching week to week is like the worst case scenario for a quarterback or a team. Like it's just, I want to see, like, even if it starts out rough, maybe like 4 weeks at least to let the guy go.
Yeah, I think the coaches will. I just think the fans need to be patient as well. Like you can't just sit here and say as soon as one makes an error, we got to swap back. Like you give them some patience too.
I have bad news for you.
I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen because it was the same way. It's been that way for years. This has been a thing post Drew a whole time. But I don't know. I would urge patience on the fan base too.
I think I think the majority of the fan base will have that patience. I think it's going to be there's a certain area in which these folks exist on social media and all these other things to where like that becomes amplified or whatever, but it's not going to be representative of the entire fan base. I think like when we walk on the street and we talk to people and everything like that, like everyone's talking about like, we'll see what happens this year and everything like that. Like everybody is very kind of like even keel, patient, knowing that it's not just about 2025 and that it's beyond. But boy, is it different once the first coin toss happens, right? Or the first kickoff happens, all those other things. Then you get really excited and passionate and everything like that. I think for Spencer, the disadvantage for him comes with the first thing that Lance highlighted, which is that Tyler Shough is Kellen Moore's handpicked guy. And so for me, I think that Tyler Shough has to have a really, really poor showing during training camp in order to not be the week 1 starter. I think I'm alone in this and I'm okay with that. But I think Tyler Shuck's going to be the week 1 starter, even though I think that Spencer Rattler should be the week 1 starter, if that makes sense. I think the team is going to kind of look at this as like a why waste time situation and get the guy in there unless it's so clear and obvious that he's not ready yet, in which case, obviously, then you don't put him in that situation. So I'm really interested to see, really how it all works out. But to me, like in my mind so far, that's the way that it plays out. We'll see how training camp changes that, but that's kind of what I'm expecting at this moment. That Tyler Shough is the guy for week 1, even if Spencer Rattler should be the guy in week 1, because Shough didn't have a poor enough performance to change anybody's mind that he will be the week 1 guy. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way that I see it.
I agree with you, Ross. I think it's more of the why waste time in that Spencer Rattler does have 6 games or whatever he started last year, but he's also like a 5th round pick from the old regime. So right. I don't see Kellen Moore and this staff being like, well, we have to give him a chance. As much as it would be nice, and as much as maybe it would be smarter to go with him, he deserves it. Right. I don't know if there's. I think the guy that's the 2nd round pick for this coaching staff is going to have a massive leg up in terms of a guy with 6 games of experience. That was a 5th round pick for the last guys.
And the good news is that Tyler Shough is really, really talented, right? Like the good news is that he's the handpicked guy and he's actually very talented. And so
that can't be true, Ross. He's old.
I know. No, but like I think that's the other thing that's worth highlighting is that like even though Tyler Shough has a leg up and is the handpicked guy and all these other things, that's not the entirety of his value. That he is also a talented young quarterback. All right, I'm done.
So I think we need to be careful judging Spencer Rattler by last year, though.
Yes,
right? That's true.
I think the reps, the live bulleted game reps are important, but him being out there with literally 2 other starters or 3 other starters or whatever it was for him, like we were playing receiver for him last season, like you know what I mean, and half of an offensive line. True. So like. Sure, like he played and he didn't win any games and he was not great by any stretch of the imagination, but those reps still matter as far as his experience goes, and I think will only make him better come the future.
And there's something that you can do to get better and better as the season gets on, and that's checking us out here on Saints Squad. Thank you for listening to Saints Squad. You can check out me, Ross, John, and Lance on our socials for the latest. Till then, we'll be right back here on Monday, ready to talk more Saints football. Until then, make Ross your second listen of the day with Locked On Saints. And as always,
Quincy Riley talk.
More Quincy Riley talk. And until then, go eat a taco for 4th of July.
Enjoy your 4th.